with the announcement of an audio recording and do the roll call, starting with Annalisa Kohler.
Present.
PJ Christopher.
Present.
Jeff Noodleman.
Present.
Claudia Capizano is out, it appears. James Allison is present. We have a quorum. And unless there's anything else, let's move on to the item B, Drainage and Water Quality Master Plan with McKenna.
Awesome. I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Okay, got it.
Cool. Okay, morning. Oh, looks like Claudio is here.
Great, thank you.
I'll note for the record that Claudia has joined.
All right. Thanks everyone for being here early this morning so we can finally talk about the Drainage and Water Quality Master Plan. So as you know, we've been working on this for the last year and we got the final plan last month. So hopefully you got a chance to look over the plan. And the purpose of today is to familiarize you with the recommended projects and programs that came out of this, and we'll explain how we plan to use that information. And we are also recommending formal adoption of this plan. Once you're all comfortable doing so, there's a copy of the resolution in your packet. So throughout this presentation, it'd be great to be thinking of any questions or if there's any additional information that you'd like to see to make you feel ready to do so. So the goal of this plan, the goals were to identify opportunities and to improve internal drainage system function, and then also habitat and water quality in collaboration with the City of Portland DES. Mainly going to focus on the Penn 1's drainage evaluation process, and then I'll highlight the other habitat and water quality outcomes towards the end. So for the conveyance system, we assessed the current conditions of the pump station, culverts, and open channels. We use that information to update Penn 1's stormwater model to simulate current system capacity for multiple different size storms. And from there, we documented both programmatic solutions and capital projects as an outcome of these analyses, and then along with stakeholder input along the way. So stakeholder coordination was definitely a key aspect of this plan, and we started off with several different routes to incorporate feedback. We sent a survey to all the landowners in the district. We sent another survey and an interactive comment map, which you can see in the right, to several other stakeholders, including City of Portland, DES and Parks, MCD operations staff, UAL, Port, Metro, Columbia City Watershed Council, and also the Audubon Society. So additionally, several members of these groups were also able to attend a site visit that we held in August of 2021. And we were able to explore areas of concern and opportunity in the district. And we also held 2 virtual workshops at key decision points throughout the process for stakeholders, and lastly invited them to comment on our draft plan. So a couple key takeaways from developing this plan. Definitely a strong need for resiliency and redundancy as we have increased uncertainty with climate and seismic events. Secondly, our partners are definitely very important for the successful management of this system, recognizing that multiple agencies work together here and that resources are limited. And lastly, working on this plan with DES has given us the opportunity to explore multi-benefit projects where we can simultaneously improve drainage and also habitat and/or water quality. So for the conveyance system capacity and condition assessment, Parametrics first relied on a pump station condition evaluation, which we performed in 2016 around the time of the MCD and Penn 2 master plans, but it included all pump stations in all 4 districts. And then we supplemented that data with additional flow testing for each pump. We visually inspected the outfalls and we took thickness measurements of the discharge lines, and then we interviewed operations staff. And then a capacity analysis was completed in the stormwater model, which was based on comparing peak water levels for different sized storms to critical elevations that MCD staff identified throughout the district. And so based on that, we found that Vampire Wetlands Pump Station was shown to only be able to handle a 2-year sized storm event. And then the PIR Pump Station was shown to handle a 25-year event. And then the condition assessment also identified a need for redundancy at the pump stations and then some wear on the discharge lines. And then for the pipes in the system, condition data availability was definitely limited. We were able to identify priority areas during our site visit, and then we went out and surveyed those just to add to what was available. And overall, condition-wise, it's a lot of the infrastructure is obviously aging. However, based on the modeling, there are not any high risk capacity issues. So the next two slides show inundation maps as a result of the model for different situations. So this first map represents flooding levels if none of our pumps were operating. So the red shading shows ponding beyond the top of channel elevation for a 25-year storm event. And then the orange, in addition to that, is for the 100-year event. So the risks here are flooding in parts of the Expo Center parking lot, as well as North Expo Road, just south of the parking lot, and then several areas throughout the golf course and PIR, which could impact operations at those places. And then this map shows the inundation levels with the pumps running normally. So I know it looks fairly similar to the last slide, but the important difference here is the colors are different. So the orange is still representing a 100-year event. And then now the yellow is representing a 500-year event. So it's a much different level of risk because this one is showing flooding for a much larger and less frequent storm. So as a result of our evaluation and then with stakeholder input, these are the projects that we identified, which are listed in order of priority. So first, to no surprise, is the PIR pump station replacement project, followed by Damport Wetlands pump station replacement. And then after that, we have daylighting, 2 culverts, 1 in the golf course and 1 in Damport Wetlands adjacent to Force Avenue. And then lastly, we have improvements to the discharge of Mud Lake in the golf course. So I know a wide range of costs is shown here, which is based on the level of preliminary design, which is appropriate for this planning effort. So the low range is a minus 30% contingency from the average cost, and then the high range is a plus 50% contingency. So this would continue to narrow as planning and design progressed, and it's just helpful to be aware of these ranges as we incorporate projects into our own capital planning process. And then these are the recommended programmatic solutions that we identified. Many of these were also recommended from MCD, Penn 2, and SDIC master plans. There are additional details on these and descriptions and costs in Appendix I. And some of the highlights are a CCTV inspection and condition assessment program, a debris barrier program, and then access and easement needs study. So to go through more details on the individual projects, first we have the PIR pump station replacement. So the main issue here is the age of the equipment and the discharge lines, and then the structure is also reaching the end of its useful life. So the solution identified includes replacing and relocating the station, adding another pump and a backup generator for redundancy, and then an automatic trash rack. And then additionally, this project also includes opportunities to include plantings and shoreline gradings to enhance habitat. And then for the Damport Wetlands pump station replacement, similarly, the main problem again is age. Also, there's a lack of redundancy and there's no SCADA communication still. So the solution we identified is to replace it and also relocate the station for better maintenance access. And then we would add another pump, backup power, add SCADA, and then add an automatic trash rack. So the golf course channel daylighting project, you can see the location of this culvert in the right upper right corner. This culvert is undersized and in pretty poor condition and also sees heavy beaver activity. And Heron Lake staff told us that they see localized flooding and impact to operations during storms. So the solution here would be to replace the culvert with a larger box culvert for the path crossing and then regrade the upstream channel to improve habitat connectivity. And then similarly, this one, there's a culvert, pretty long culvert next to Force Avenue in the southwest corner of Damport Wetlands. And it's also in poor condition and has sediment buildup. Maintenance right now is really challenging because it's pretty inaccessible. And so the recommendation is to daylight this culvert into a channel by removing it and then excavating and draining or grading a channel to match the adjacent reaches of the channel. And then the last drainage project recommendation is at Mud Lake, which is in the northern area of the golf course adjacent to Force Lake. There's 3 existing discharge pipes from this lake that are pretty filled with sediment and partially collapsed. And the recommended project is to remove these and install, again, a large box culvert under the pathway, and then regrading adjacent reaches for better connectivity. And then it also includes installing a weir structure at the discharge point so that they can control the lake water level. And then for a quick overview of the habitat and water quality projects, our consultants identified areas for plantings and shoreline grading throughout Penn 1, which is shown in the figure. These areas were determined first by need and then further refined by MCDD, PIR, and Heron Lakes operations staff. The recommendations also include adding a few habitat structures throughout Penn 1, making improvements to the PIR pump station forebay, including plantings, regrading, and recontouring. And then lastly, enhancing habitat in the lower slough by installing large woody debris. So the programmatic recommendations for habitat and water quality include a water quality monitoring program, a sediment load source evaluation, a levee seed mix evaluation, vegetation management evaluation on the golf course, and then lastly, a water quality assessment of the stormwater contributing to the right-of-way on Marine Drive, which discharges directly into the Columbia River. So to recap, this plan focused on identifying opportunities, identifying deficiencies, and then opportunities to improve the internal drainage system function and habitat and water quality. Several opportunities were recognized for multi-benefit projects that integrate drainage and habitat water quality improvements. So our plan is to incorporate the drainage projects and programs into Penn 1's capital improvement plan, and similarly, the habitat and water quality projects are expected to be incorporated into BES's CIP. These integrated projects also provide some great examples of possible things that the new district can do as we transition. And so, yeah, again, there is a draft resolution in your packet, which we can vote on today if you're ready, or it can wait. So that is, I know, a lot at once, but that's all I have. So would love to open it up for questions or discussion.
Great. Thank you, McKenna. Great effort and nice job on the presentation, summary of the plan in the presentation. Comments or questions from board members? Looks like Jeff has one before me.
Hey, Jim. Yeah, excellent, McKenna. Thank you so much. Question about the last couple slides before the recap and the listed programs. Yeah, that one and the one before. Are these in any type of priority, or are they just to give us an overview of really, what you've identified as, critical components, of course, as we've hearing about for many years. But I'm just curious if they are at all prioritized in the event that, yeah, that one especially, thank you. In the event funding, becomes an issue at some point, but yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, this one is listed in order of priority. So yeah, first prioritizing plantings and shoreline grading, and then the programs are not in order of priority. These are generally a lot less expensive also, or more just kind of like doing some evaluations to further understand some of the water quality issues in the district mainly, but this one is in order of priority. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much.
A question that I have is related to your recommendation that these get placed on the capital improvement plan. Some of these look familiar from what I've been doing thus far on the board, and I suspect are already in the capital improvement plan. Is that true? And then whatever's not in the capital improvement plan will then also be included in addition to, correct?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So and we're just talking about the right now just these ones, and so you're right that
Okay.
These first two are already in there, but this plan, since this is Penn 1's first drainage master plan in quite some time, we didn't have really good actual planning level cost estimates for those. And so this gives us a much better idea, and actually is not too far off from what was already in there, which is great. But this just gives us a better idea for what we actually want to include in those. And then the bottom three would be new projects to include.
And then Bill, I have another question, but I can go after you because you got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, BJ. I'm just supplementing McKenna's response. She's correct, and we will add projects to the CIP as if anything like this comes about. But recognize that the Penn 1 CIP are include assets that Penn One owns or has a very close connection to. Vanport Wetlands, this pump station is kind of a one-off, but the remaining three projects identified in here are on Parks property. And so technically they would likely be Parks assets, and maybe Claudia will have a different take on this, but if it's not a drainage district assets, it's not likely to be on the CIP, but that doesn't mean that Penn One couldn't contribute money towards these improvements. It just may be documented in a slightly different manner. So wanted to make sure that you and other board members understand that what's on your 5-year CIP should represent just your assets and those that are under your control.
Think so.
Yeah, no, thanks, Bill. And my apologies. I'm just coming back from a pretty long vacation and haven't had a chance to connect with Travis, who I know has been a little bit more closely connected to the creation of the master plan. And so, I know that there's been probably more discussion about the connection to projects and parks, parks assets. But yeah, I haven't had a chance to connect with him about that. So.
Yeah. So, and I'll say that off of what Bill said, this plan did not really include, like the scope didn't really include the political or funding challenges as part of these projects, but the two on the golf course were definitely added as projects that Travis and others at Heron Lakes wanted to see. So, yeah.
I have an additional question. It's kind of a silly one, but the plan broke up projects between kind of, what would you call it, economic safety, resilience, that's what these would say, infrastructure, and then habitat creation. Is there a connection between the two on if you do the habitat work alongside a project for infrastructure, that it helps the infrastructure project operate better, more efficiently, and longer? Or are they truly two completely segregated different outcomes or different achievements you're trying to reach? Does that make sense? So could you pitch it as, all right, we know we got to do this we got to do this pump station replacement, but if we do the habitat around it, there's not going to be so much sediment. This is just me thinking out loud. So much sediment that hits that pump station because there's a lot of filter or whatever, a natural filter in front of it that justifies doing them together.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I'll first say that there's project fact sheets in the back of the plan, which have more detail about like connecting habitat and water quality projects as part of it. But I guess as an example, one of the habitat projects is to improve the forebay of the PIR pump station and regrade and recontour, as well as doing some plantings. And so that one, which could be combined with the pump station replacement project, would actually really help the movement of water by reducing sediment and debris, and also creating a better pathway for water to reach the inlet of the pipes instead of where it is now.
Understood, and kudos to you for, that was pretty clear when you explained it on that project. I just wanted to bring it up and get it, just put it out there. So that is very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, great question.
Great. Thanks, PJ. I had that same question. So obviously each project would have its own specific analysis and drivers, but just confirming it's generally the case, and a general objective of habitat projects would not adversely impact and would in most cases benefit system capacity for stormwater storage and positive impact on conveyance as well. Is that generally true?
Correct. Yeah, and we also had our maintenance staff as well as PIR and Heron Lakes look at the planting areas to remove any that we felt like would be cause extra maintenance work or anything like that. So yeah, correct. They would not be detrimental to the flood control.
And then I have an additional question. This one may be difficult to answer. If approved, this is hopefully an easy thing to answer. If the board approves it, does it then go on to the Corps of Engineers for some sort of acceptance or review in terms of its relation to the RIP program? And then the second question is, does this then in 2 years, 4 years become the product of the property of the new urban flood safety water quality district for them to then prioritize, not adopt this, but to own it and to prioritize projects? And the reason I ask that is kind of similar to PJ's questions and Jeff's questions about priorities. I think we've got a pretty clear CIP as a district for the next 2 to 4 years, and we're working to fund those capital projects. But am I correct in assuming that this will be a living document? That is, the expectation is that the new district will, particularly with its water quality mandate, the new district will take this on, and it won't need to be redone other than, kind of annual, as part of your planning program, annual prioritization.
Yeah, James, let me take a first stab at it, and McKenna can fill in some gaps. With regards to your first question, we certainly can make this available to the Corps, and there will be of value probably for some of their work related to Penn 1, though most of it deals with the levee system rather than the conveyance system. But some of the daylighting projects, for example, could be some suggestions for them how best to find an appropriate design. So yes, we can make that available to them. With regards to the second question, these priorities are based upon the project's prioritization scheme. And the projects will be reevaluated with the larger CIP when that's considered annually, not just by your current district, but by the new urban district as well. And as you know, the new urban district has other purposes. And so I expect that the CIP criteria will change and incorporate those other considerations. And so the prioritizations may get jumbled a little bit according to that. So yes, like the other drainage master plans from the other 3 districts, this is part of the set of information that forms a baseline for the new urban district to begin operating. Hope that answers your question.
Great, thank you. That does. Other comments and questions from board members?
Just one, and this is not substantive. Can we get a copy of, I found this summary excellent. The material with the packet is obviously incredibly comprehensive, but it's 200 plus some pages. I always like to have a summary like this, which is very, very well done. So if at some point, if we could get that, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely.
Great, thank you. Well, I don't want to get ahead of the board. I did read the entire document and made comments. Thank you to McKenna and the team for providing a way to comment on the document. I look to the board as to whether the board is ready to adopt this. I've read it. I feel in my position ready to adopt it, but I look to the board to see the board's comfort level in doing so. And if the board feels that way, I'd entertain a motion.
Thanks, James. I'll just weigh in here with starting with a huge thank you to all the staff, McKenna, and everyone else who worked on this. I know that my team at Metro has been engaged in the process and has really appreciated all of the opportunities to weigh in, and definitely, I think in that final draft saw a lot of their comments reflected. So just want to say thank you for that. I am happy to vote on this today for approval, but also happy to wait as folks are digesting it.
Yeah, and as I said, just coming back from a long vacation, and I would appreciate just a little bit of, if there, unless there's some, significant impact on staff work going forward, would love to take a moment to digest and make sure that I've circled back with folks here at Parks. This obviously touches a lot of our assets, and I know there's been a lot of involvement. I just want to make sure that we're, everybody's, had their say been heard, and before we go ahead and vote, if that'd be all right.
I think with Claudio's comment, James, I'd move the table until a time after he's had the opportunity to counsel with folks that he feels comfortable with.
I agree.
I just wanted to briefly say that the next most convenient opportunity will be at the October format.
Well, I appreciate that, Wendy, but I mean, I suppose having been briefed so well, outstanding by staff, if everybody else is comfortable, we could do it, a 5-minute call, at some point, especially call just for this reason, but it's up to you guys. I don't care.
We can we have a planned executive session in September, and we can definitely add it to that.
Great. So what I'm hearing is that everyone will have the opportunity to review that with their organization, and so we wouldn't need a lot of time for additional presentation. We would come prepared to approve the plan, and I would appreciate it, I guess, if in your review of the plan and talking to your organizations, if you can obviously keep staff and me involved in anything that may be a sticking point, that would be great. great. But otherwise, we'll anticipate just a very brief introduction and a vote in about a month. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for all the work, and thanks for a little grace on this. I know that folks have been working hard on this, and our folks have been heavily involved as well. So just wanted to dot I's, cross T's before we roll.
Great, thank you. And it being 11:20, and we're not quite ready to uncork the champagne. We'll have to wait for another time to do that. But I look forward to celebrating in a month. With that, are we free to adjourn and rejoin the format in 10 minutes? Is that where we're at?
Sounds great.
Okay,
Feel
well,
free to stay in the same meeting if you want to just turn your camera off. We'll be on the same link.
that sounds great.
Thanks for your time, board members. We appreciate your help.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.